Hello, I'm Lee Sanders. We hope you and your loved ones are safe as we learn to live through these unique and challenging times. Although my routines continue to change, I still talk with lots of people who love high school sports. We wanted to share some of these conversations in order to build community, focus on high school sports topics of interest to officials and others, connect our coaches and officials, and chat with talented Louisianians who are passionate supporters of our officiating community. Thanks for listening to The Right Call. We hope you enjoy today's discussion about communicating with coaches. We will hear from Brian Wynne, Harry Jenkins, and Michael Silver. Brian, if you could tell us your officiating story, please.
All right, Lee, I started baseball in 1986. I grew up playing baseball, and I was always interested in officiating was a way for me to stay into the game. I've officiated baseball since then. This is my 35th season. And in 2006, I expanded out to football. And then in 2018, I retired from my job with the state of Louisiana. And I decided, since there was a shortage in officials, I'd give volleyball a try. And there's a lot of similarities between the sports, rules, mechanics, working with coaches, working with players. So I knew there was a need for a volleyball official, so I decided to give that a try. I enjoy all three sports. The dynamics are a little different in each one. It's a lot of fun to work them, to be around the coaches and the kids. And I get a lot of fulfillment that way, and being a lot of camaraderie with other officials and going to camps and learning things like that. You never stop learning.
Brian, what did you do professionally prior to retirement?
I was a colonel with the Louisiana State Police.
And how long did you serve in that capacity?
I was there 34 years.
Mr. Jenkins, would you introduce yourself to us?
Yes, I'm Harry Jenkins, referee high school basketball. Funny story, my first love, and still my first love, is baseball. I was a baseball official, umpire. And one of the guys asked me after a baseball game to come help him referee a bitty tournament. And I had no interest at all. I was still playing adult basketball, so I was refereeing then, playing adult basketball. So there was no reason for me to referee basketball. But I tried it. I got the bug. I got hit so hard with that bug that next year I sold my umpire equipment. I fell in love. I found my first love again, which was basketball. Really excited about it. I moved to Baton Rouge in 2003, started refereeing high school basketball here in Baton Rouge.
Mr. Silver.
We'd like to engage you now. How about you introduce yourself?
So I am a soccer official. I started officiating when I was 12 years old. So I've been officiating about 18 years now, and then at the high school level for about 13. I got into officiating because I was a player who wasn't very good, but I liked the rules, and I wanted to stay involved with the game. And it was a great way to stay around the game and continue to give back. And since that time, I've been able to travel around the region, not only with that, but helping with assigning of basketball and soccer in my area. And I've got friends in officiating now who are some of my best friends. I mean, the camaraderie that you get each time you go out on the field or the court, and whether it's as an official or as an assigner, you get to build these relationships that are lasting, not only with the officials, but also with the administrators and the coaches that you work with along the way.
So, Brian, you work multi-sport, so you have a really unique perspective, and you've officiated high school sports for quite some time at a very high level. You serve as Mike's umpire, and so you are the crew saver many times, right?
Well, I'll take credit for that. I don't know if he will or not, but I will.
So give me a tip for working with coaches.
Well, the dynamic for the sports is going to be greatly different from baseball to football to volleyball. In baseball, you're in closer proximity to working with the coaches, so your chances to interact with them are going to be a lot greater. And I have found over the years, they evaluate you from the minute they first see you. So it's incumbent upon me to look as good as I can in my uniform, have clean pressed pants, clean shirt, clean blocked hat, polish my shoes, polish my belt, try and have a command presence. And now my size helps me do that. I'm 6'6", but I'm also very soft-spoken, and I know that, so I generally don't yell across the field to coaches. I'll try and get close to them face-to-face to discuss.
You can do a lot with proximity, can't you, Brian? just walking
Yes, you
yourself
can.
to a player or to a coach in a non-confrontational, but with appropriate body language, you can be authoritative, but not too much.
Well, you want to set a tone that you're businesslike and professional, but you want to be approachable as well. So, you know, most of the coaches in baseball in town know me. I've been doing it 35 years. It's like Harry said, you can audition one town coach who doesn't know you. So he's going to be evaluating you and your appearance. He's evaluating you at the home plate meeting, how you conduct yourself, what you say, and then he's going to look at your judgment. So if you can win on appearance and your conduct before a critical play happens, that gets you halfway home. And then I try and use very specific language, depending on what happens in the play, to describe what I called and why I called it. But first, I understand two things. My antenna have to be up from the minute I walk up to what goes on with me, a plate umpire or a base umpire, and my partner, whatever position he's in, and to understand the dynamics between my partner and the other one team and their head coach and the other team and their head coach, and as well as my dynamic with them. So if my partner's working the plate and he's struggling, I better get all my calls right on the bases or we're going to have trouble that day. The crew's going to be in trouble. And so I try and build up my partner in between innings, but I'm not going to go near him when we have a controversial play. And then I'm going to try and conduct my business as thoroughly and professionally as I can out on the field. And then understanding me with a close play, say a tag play at a base, he's going to come out and give me a blast. I should be taking in all information that I can before the play happens, listen to what he has to say, and then I'm going to ask him a question so that I can gain control of that discussion. I'm going to ask him, does he want to know what I saw? And to me, that's a yes or no answer. If he says yes, I'm going to tell him in specific terms what I saw. I saw, Coach, the throw beat your runner. He tagged your runner on the right wrist before your runner touched the base. Therefore, I have an out. And when I get that specific, they might ask me another question or two, but then I can tell the wheels are turning in their mind.
I think when you ask the coach a question, it validates that you're hearing them and you value their perspective and that you are trying to understand where they're coming from relative to a call.
Well, everybody has a good day and a bad day. So I don't know what he's gone through before the game. I don't know what kind of pressure he's getting from his principal. I don't know what kind of pressure he's getting from his parents. I don't know what kind of pressure he's getting from his starting pitcher's hurt and he's playing the best team in the district. So I got to be attuned to that he might be a little on edge. And so I want to try and diffuse that as much as I can, be as relaxed as I can be with him, but still be professional and still be to the point.
Mr. Jenkins, how about you? Could you give us a tip?
Yes, I can. In basketball, my thing is at trail. I find that it's easier and effective to talk to a coach away from the bench as far as you can. You don't want them too far out the box because everybody's about territory. As a referee, I'm territorial. That court is mine during live ball. Dead ball, I'm over there at trail. I'm talking to the coach. I want to have a whisper type conversation because if I tell him something that is the truth and he don't want to lose credibility with his bench. So my conversation is going to be just between him and I. And a good case in point was the foul count was 6-1. And as soon as I got there, ref, the foul count 6-1. I say, no, sir, the foul count is 2-1. He said, on the board, it's 6-1. I say, sir, our last trip down here, you had a full court press and you fouled 4 times, knocked the guy down 4 separate times. Do you agree? Oh, yeah, I saw that. So let's take that away. Those are no-brainers. Now we're back to 2-1. So that 6-1, it really isn't based upon what happened the last trip we had down court. And he looked and walked away. He didn't say, okay. When I was fine with that, as long as I say what I had to say and gave him facts. And that's all I want to try to give him is facts. And I know when it comes down to the top 28 in playoff, that their mindset is different. Our mindset has to be different. And we have to be able to approach them because basically they don't know us because we are refereeing somebody that's not one of our member schools. So we have to be prepared and we have to anticipate everything that's going to happen. Brian says something that applies to basketball as well. I mean, he has to know about a starting pitcher not being available. I have to know who the best ball players are. To me, that's important in basketball. I'm saying just have that knowledge. And conversely, know who the knuckleheads are. We got to know who the ones who are going to give us the trouble and who is the ball player we can go to. And so my thing is, when it comes down to coaches, I want to talk to them in a way and in an area where we can have this dialogue, short, sweet, and to the point, and then move from there.
And it's information driven. And what I like that I've heard you and Brian say, it's information driven. It's professional. It's, it's the role of the official to be approachable. Now, how you're approachable is difficult. So, Michael, give us a tip on officials, coaches, interactions.
So to kind of piggyback on what Brian and Harry said, Brian picked up that first impressions are everything. As we walk out on the field or the court for the first time, how we look, how we interact with people, that's going to really set the tone for the whole day. So you've got to understand who your coaches are and what their roles are. Maybe some positive conversation you can have with them as you're getting ready, as you're going through doing the conversation pieces to make sure everybody's properly equipped. Take that to say something positive to the coach so that first interaction they have with you is positive. It's not you telling them, oh, you need to change player XYZ's this. Find something positive so that you've got something in the bank. So whenever you do have a question on a call or whatever, you already have something to take back out of the bank. So kind of like a credit debit system. Also, it's important that as you're corresponding with coaches that we use short rules-based answers. And anytime you can ask a question and leave it kind of like that, that's going to help you out a lot. We are often type A personalities, and we may want to have that last word in a conversation. But when we're having a conversation with coaches, it needs to be a conversation, but we can't be afraid to let them have the last word. And when you're in a bigger arena or on a big field and you can't necessarily get that close like you can in basketball to have those short, quiet ones, facial expressions, your body language, short answers that you can say as you're running by will go a long way in helping to diffuse the situation. But whatever you do, you have to be sure that you acknowledge to the coach, I hear you. Not necessarily saying you agree, but you have to hear coaches. If you just say nothing, that's worse than almost saying the wrong thing to.
And that's where it's helpful to have some pre-canned practice things to do, like asking a question about whatever it is that the coach is trying to have a conversation with me about, assuming that it's being done in the appropriate manner in the context of the game and the sport, right? If I ask the coach a question about something he's trying to communicate with me, that validates that I think I'm listening to him and that maybe 50% or more of his greatest angst, if you will, or potential angst is now alleviated because he's being heard.
Right. And it's important to understand that we answer questions. And sometimes those statements are things that we just need to let go. It may be that 5-second outburst that was a couple sentences of statements, and we don't necessarily need to engage that because that may just take us down a rabbit hole. But if we're asked a question, answer the question, and also do that in a professional manner. And even though you may be getting it in a louder manner than what you would like, it's important to respond in a calm, cool, collective manner, because it's really hard for somebody to continue to yell at someone when you are responding in that calm, cool, collective manner.
Hey, guys, I want to pitch one question to each of you. I want you to think of an official who was a mentor to you in coach-official interaction. So I want you to think of someone that you believe modeled high standards for coach-official connections. Tell me what made this official excel at handling and dealing and communicating with coaches.
Well, he was an excellent communicator, and he understood that our role as an official is to communicate rules and rulings to coaches, and he never took anything personal. He had an outstanding knowledge of the rules of many sports because he worked many sports, and he talked directly to coaches as an adult would speak to another adult. He never talked down to anyone. He never belittled anyone, but he was an excellent communicator. His judgment as an official is also outstanding, and I think that kept him out of a lot of trouble over the years. But he was an excellent communicator, and I worked with him 4, 5, 6 years before it dawned on me that one of my main roles as an official is to be an effective communicator to players and coaches.
Do you know, Brian, that's amazing to me. And I see younger officials don't realize how difficult communication is. I think you touched on something pretty powerful there. Harry, how about you? Won't you describe this official and the way he interacted or she interacted with coaches?
The best thing I could describe about this person is that he was a lawyer and still is a practicing attorney. And he had a way about himself. You know, when it came down to dealing with coaches, he never spoke above a whisper. He knew what to say. Of course, he had credibility, great referee on the floor. But with credibility, you also got to have communication skills. And he had it. His words were just short. He said everything in a compact manner and said what he had to say and got out. And allowed the coach. He got out. I mean, he allowed the coach to respond if he chose to. But if you see where his body language wasn't, or it was going to be confrontational, he walk away. He was good at knowing when to stay and when to walk. And I saw that about him. It was like, that's good.
And that's a fine line. That's tough, Harry.
It is.
Michael Silver, how about you?
So one of the officials that I got to work with a lot as I was just getting started always would say when we got there, hey, I'm going to go talk to coaches. And I would just realize anytime I worked a game with this guy, everything was kind of quiet. And what was it? And it was always that he said, I'm going to go be the positive influence when the game first starts. He knew the rules. It didn't matter what you asked. He knew the rules. And the other thing is he also knew that none of us are perfect, him included. And so when he made a mistake and he knew he made a mistake, he would say, hey, I missed it. It catches a coach off guard, but it was one of those things. He's like, you can't say it 10 times a game, but if you think you're going to ever have a perfect game, then you have another thing coming. So don't be afraid to say when you know you blew the call that you blew the call. Again, you can't do it 10 times, but admitting that shows that, one, you're human, two, you're really listening, and three, it helps you gain a lot of credibility with the coaches, provided that you understand the rules and you're pretty consistent and get the rest of them right.
Thanks for listening to The Right Call. Stay tuned for part 2 of our conversation about communicating with coaches.